When I was a student, one of the things about making art was it made me feel mad. My name is Ryan Gander. This is my studio. It's called Solid House. Please come inside. What I love about the studio is I loved being at art school. And the whole time I was at art school, I was in with the cleaners in the morning and I was out when they tell me to leave. Because I just thought, I got this for 3 years. I'm never going to do this again. And then when I got to be at the point I am now and thought I could buy a studio now, and my wife found this sports centre and said, this is Be a Good Studios. I thought, oh my God, that would be incredible. That would be like having your own art school, but with one student, which is me. I mean, I understand why an artist's practice is called the practice. You're meant to do it regularly and get better at it. But I do that, but I don't do that physically with my things. I do that cognitively with my brain. So it's about exercising your imagination to be able to be, have cognitive agility. For me, artworks are things that remain ambiguous, have a multitude of answers depending on the person who is confronted with them and depending on what culture they're from, and things that make more questions than answers. So I think that's also the problem with the education system in this country, that it expects us all to remember answers, but doesn't teach us to ask questions. I was socialised in hospital, because I spent a lot of time in hospital when I was a kid, and I was stuck in a bed. So there was this idea of inaccessibility. When your agency and your freedom is restricted, the mind muscle, the imagination, goes into overdrive because you use your imagination to produce agency experiences that give you the sense of free will. So you imagine yourself somewhere else on a beach or at a children's party if you're a kid. And that's what I did my whole childhood, and I prototyped experiences in my mind. And I guess the other things that happened in that situation was I became really good at collaborating, organising people. As a kid, I would organise sponsored silences. I had made a radio station that was then put on the hospital radio, but I was always active doing a project, and they always involved other people, and they always involved making people feel that they were part of something. And when you look at the work I've made in the last 20 years, those characteristics are in so many projects. It's very, very weird. So they're collections of strange things. I'm a little bit of a collector, hoarder, but of weird stuff. This is a clock, a stopwatch that my dad was given when he worked at Vauxhall Motors. And that's interesting because time is money in a tangible sense. I am quite an organised person because there's 8-10 people here and people coming and going. So if you don't know where the stapler is, that can be quite annoying. So it looks quite like a Swiss railway. It's an efficiency. Just looks really crazy, doesn't it? They'll come. Look, do you want a brass PP 20mm? Because they're right here if you want it. I'm really interested in how we've conditioned ourselves to measure our world with things, with objects, with tangible stuff, but not with events and moments and memories and histories and stories. But the stories and the memories and the histories, the conversations and the ideas, we don't believe in them anymore because we can't see them physically. And this is what the find is about, really. The way that we value tangible things that are related with accelerated capitalism, but we don't value with the same rigor moments. If you had a week left to live, you would definitely swap all your money in the world for an extra week. So it proves that, time is of greater value than money. And similarly with the idea of attention economy, if you had a week left to live, you wouldn't spend any of those days on Instagram. This is the vending machine. This is not an artwork, it's just a vending machine that's full of interesting things that I've collected. It vends at £10 for anything. So the things that are in it are alphabetically. So A for after 8 minutes, B for beer, C for cards, D for a drugs test, E for an egg, F for fire starter, G for gorilla tape, don't know the alphabet, H for Holy Bible, I for... Anyway, I'm not going to get it down because there's things that are illegal at the bottom. I don't ever have a creative block. I record everything. If I didn't record all the ideas I have when I had them, I'd get a creative block. But what I do get, which is probably worse, is a fear, a weird fear, which relates to procrastination, which is an artist's greatest disease, I think. But I think the other problem in that cycle of procrastination is there's so many starting points here. I don't physically have enough time in my life to do them, and I certainly don't have enough money to be able to facilitate them. So there has to be a pecking order of what I will do. So I spend too much time trying to identify which one is better than the other one. And that's quite difficult. These are all catalytic ideas, which means they're really good. All the others are labeled stock. They're all right, but they're not amazing ideas. These are hypercatalytic, kairos. Kairos are the ideas that I would make if I had more money. And then this is chronos. These are the ideas I would make if I had more time. Uber catalytic, they're the ones that I'm going to do next. So these ones get turned into ideas like this that are just words that are kind of to remind me, keywords. And then they go over here into the ones that I definitely want to make next. And then the further they get up here, they get made. So we make a work and then we photograph it in here. These type of works, it's all about the presentation of them. I don't think art only really exists when you've put it in the space it's meant to be put. You've given it a title, you've taken the photograph of it, you've given it a description. People always think it's extravagant having a gallery, but this is probably, after the office, the most important room. The project for MIF is called The Find, and it's a bit like a treasure hunt. So there'll be hundreds of thousands of coins that are about the size of a 10p piece hidden around Manchester. I wanted people to explore Manchester and the people that are familiar with Manchester to see it in a different way. I think there's a lot to be said for, we always take the most direct route from A to B. There's a lot to be said for taking the long way round, because things happen to you that you don't expect.